Wendell Berry has said that the world cannot be discovered by a journey of miles, no matter how long, but only by a spiritual journey, a journey of 1 inch, very arduous and humbling and joyful, by which we arrive at the ground at our own feet and learn to be at home. Let us take a spiritual journey together this year, a pilgrimage of learning to be at home. Together we will leave the safety and comfort of the familiar and test our mettle in an arduous and humbling and joyful journey. It will be difficult at times, but we'll face the unfamiliar together. There will be times of grieving to release what we've lost, and times of celebration to renew our resolve. Through it all, we will learn together to widen our horizons, deepen our hearts, and release our limitations so that we might know each other and ourselves anew.
Good morning, everyone. As we listen to the Peace Bowl, we open with the beauty of this morning, the earth under our feet, the yellow and red leaves of autumn that are dotting the landscape. Let us remember the traditional names of the 4 groups that make up the Yavapai we know today: the Wipukepas, the Tokepayas, the Cuevcapayas, and the Yavapai. This is the land where they loved the autumn and the harvest of corn, the land they loved from long before we arrived. Now together, let us listen to a love song to the earth.
It's our world, and it's our world, 'cause it's our world.
Welcome to Granite Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation in Prescott, Arizona. I'm Bronwyn Butterfield and will be your worship associate for today. We extend a warm welcome to all of you, and we're so glad you're able to join us today. During this time of minimal physical contact, we want to stay connected. So please join us for our breakout rooms after the service, and this will give us time to chat with congregants in all groups. If you're joining us for the first time, please check out our website for more information about us, prescottuu.org. This is the mission statement of our congregation. We are a compassionate spiritual community that celebrates diversity, nurtures the personal and spiritual growth of all ages, shares our gifts, promotes justice for all, and serves the world we live in. We extend our thanks to all who contribute to the presentation of our service today. Heather Knowles for technical support, Mary Lou Prince for musical direction, and I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Patrick Grady. Patrick Grady is a spirited activist in our community around the climate crisis. He is the chair of the Yavapai Climate Change Coalition, on the board of Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, and the team leader of the Prescott Interfaith Climate Action Team. His wife, Leslie, very active in Prescott Peace Builders, moved with Patrick to Prescott in the spring of 2017, and they joined GPUU in early 2020. We have a few announcements today, and although we are physically apart, we are still in community. We continue with some of our meetings and activities via the internet. So please continue to check the Weekly Peak, our website, and Reverend Patty's videos for announcements. Please join our regular Zoom meetings, Together Wednesday Forum, 2 p.m. Wednesday afternoon book discussion time, and Friday lunch with the minister. Find connection info and other announcements in our order of service. Children's faith development for all ages will occur today at 11:30 via Zoom. You may contact Bev Bostrom at her email, bevbostrom@mac.com, bevbostrom@mac.com, if you'd wish to join this activity. Granite Peak's November services auction is coming up. Please consider making a donation of a service, delivered meals, events, gift baskets, a gathering, an art piece, etc. If you want to see this particular service or any service again or share it with others, follow our link to our YouTube channel found in the order of service or in the Granite Peak Weekly newsletter. We begin our service in the Unitarian Universalist tradition of lighting the chalice. The following are writings from Rachel Carson. It is a curious situation that the sea from which life first arose should now be threatened by the activities of one form of that life. But the sea, though changed in a sinister way, will continue to exist. The threat is rather to life itself. The more clearly we can focus our attention on the wonders and realities of the universe about us, the less taste we shall have for destruction. The human race is challenged more than ever before to demonstrate our mastery, not over nature, but of ourselves. This commitment is eloquently expressed by Vern Barnett. I pledge allegiance to the earth on which I stand, and to the environment of which I am a part, one planet in a process with soil, water, and air like one body, indivisible, with resources to be cherished and protected by all. We light this chalice, a symbol of our heritage, in gratitude for this beloved community and our home, planet Earth.
Bienvenidos, todo el mundo. Welcome, everyone. Buenos dias. This is the day that we have on this earth. Unitarian Universalists, we often speak of love, that mushy word that is hard to define. Our banners proclaim love, standing on the side of love and then being on the side of love, having a love beyond belief. But what is this love? I believe it is the force that flows through our veins that causes us to save someone we love, even if it means losing our own life. It is what drives soldiers to save a comrade, risking their own lives. Love of freedom is what urged the suffragettes and so many, many in this country and all over the world to risk their lives, such as Emily Davison, who in 1913 jumped in the midst of a horse race in England in front of the king's horse to call attention to the world, to call attention to women who wanted the vote so much. And 3 days later, she died, That is love of freedom. With love, though, we come up against our limitations. How far will we go to support, to protect? In my talk about climate change in January, I told of my great-grandmother, Patty, who pioneered into Wyoming, and soon afterwards, from their cabin near the Shoshone River, she heard a voice that said, "Clifford," that was her son's name, "Clifford's in the river, Clifford's in the river." And she ran to the river, she ran to him, never mind the risk, and saved his life. The voice of the earth is calling to us. Love, our love, can call us to risk everything, and love can guide us. Please join me in singing, "Love Will Guide Us." Please join me in saying our covenant together. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve others in community. Thus do we covenant together. Granite Peak has members and friends, and we are a part of a larger community. Our building is a community center, and now often our parking lot is that place. We are to Prescott and Yavapai County. We have people belonging to us out in ever widening circles. Carrie Hull and her work with the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance has helped educate youth and all of us in the importance of understanding the effects of climate change. I asked her to tell us about what gives her energy, and this is what she recorded.
Hi everyone, I'm Carrie Hull. I'm the community organizer for Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, and I was invited today by Reverend Patty Willis and Patrick Grady to give inspiring words to you on climate action in our area, in the state, and in the nation. So as we work really hard to get all these progressive candidates elected, please keep in mind that we know that they are going to push forward climate legislation and use the Green New Deal as the vision and model for a sustainable, healthy planet. So this is our time. This is going to be the year. We need to keep working hard. And I just want to thank everybody who showed up for our shoe strike down in Prescott, the volunteers that helped us with the shoe strike demonstration at the courthouse, donated all those shoes. It really helped our efforts and to kind of keep the climate action movement alive while we're in COVID and we're being safe. So I'm really hoping that 2021, we're all going to be able to come together and keep fighting hard to clean up our air and recover our planet from the global warming and the pollution that has been going on for too many years. So our time is now, and I want to make sure that everybody knows that if you're working and making phone calls and writing postcards to get our progressive candidates elected, that it's going to help our planet. And we need to always remember to make every day Earth Day. So have a wonderful Sunday and keep fighting hard for our Mother Earth. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you. And now we listen to this bowl. We listen to this sound and consider all that we bring with us to this space. Let us think of the earth under our feet. Let us find that place of stillness within us. We each hold joys and sorrows in our hearts. Karen Anderson is progressing well. She will be completing her rehab in Prescott, and the road to complete recovery will be long. She has been lifted by you. She's thankful for all the love that has been surrounding her, the love from this community and from her partner and son. Your love sent through the universe in silence or in letters or in texts has had great meaning for her. Let us continue to hold her in prayer. Let us also hold Karen Denny, whose condition is painful, and they won't give her an appointment for many months. Some of you know that frustration and pain. We also hold Drew Potter, whose medical condition has returned and he is feeling pain. Let us join him in hoping that this condition passes soon and that he will find ways to bear the pain. Thomas Massey's back surgery was successful, and he sent me a message a couple of days ago that he is recovering well. And last week, we heard that Amber Faith, the manager for Judy Stahl's campaign, that so many of you are involved in, that she lost her father in a shooting in Dallas, Texas. Let us continue to hold her and her family. And now let us ring a bell to begin a time of quiet. But before I ring the bell, I invite you to say the names of those that you are carrying on your heart in both joy and sorrow. Anna and Scott. Marco. I now invite you to close your eyes and imagine a place that you love, the sea, the sweep of a vista from a mountaintop, or perhaps as Emily Dickinson, your garden, a bee on a clover. As we imagine these places where we find solace, let us enter into a time of silence, after which I will offer a meditation. Spirit of life, we give thanks for the sun that rose this morning, for the places on this earth that bring us peace. We pray for this earth, for the hearts of people to turn to the voice that is calling from this earth. We ask for comfort for our community members who are experiencing difficulties, with Karen Anderson, Karen Denny, Drew Potter, Thomas Massey, Amber Faith, and Rosemary Dixon's daughter. All those who are just numbers in our newspapers who have registered positive with COVID-19, those in ICUs, those caring for them, all our first responders, those who are fighting fires, those who are dealing with the loss of their home and the places they have loved. May we have resilience. May we have a mind that sees the common good. We ask to bless our country, that our polls will be open to all who vote. May we do all we can to create that pathway to the polls. May we work in these last days up to the election to make sure that as many people vote as possible. And may we, as John Lewis, give the message that the vote is precious, almost sacred, he said, and I would say our vote is sacred. May we be with all the humans and animals of this earth and listen to the voice of this land and seek to live in ever-increasing alignment. Amen, and may it be so. And now I invite us to sing Walking, Walking with You. Walking, walking with you, walking with you is my prayer.
This is the time in our service when we normally gather the offering. Let us embrace the feeling of connection and community that we have when we gather each week. Let us remember that this congregation and its programs are supported by your generosity. We also give back to the greater community through our seeds of support. During the month of October, our recipient is Keep Prescott Together. Please read about them in your order of service and the weekly newsletter. And to give during this distance time, please go to prescottuu.org. On the bottom left-hand side, click the word donate to contribute. This link is also available in the chat on this video. And what is given in love is received in gratitude. Blessed be.
I must give you a PS from Joys and Sorrows. I want us also to hold Janer Eldridge and Peter and Joe, who are like family, feeling close because I just spoke with Janer yesterday. So that's perhaps why I forgot. I apologize, but let us hold them in our hearts. I also noticed that at least the one you on my screen were not singing. Spirit of life, sing it out. No one can hear you, and it's a good chance to practice that breathing and sending that good energy out. In the September View, Molly Devine wrote about changes she and Gary have been making to their carbon footprint through this pandemic. And I asked her to say a few words today. Here are Molly and Gary from Oregon.
Hi, Molly Devine.
And Gary Baker.
And we're here to spend just a few moments with you to talk about our ideas that we've had regarding climate change. With the start of the pandemic, many things have changed, and one of them has been a lack of opportunity for us to gather together at the congregation, which we missed dearly. And with that, our work toward green sanctuary has also slowed. But that doesn't mean that we have stopped or even particularly slowed our efforts to be conscious of the ongoing climate change crisis and perhaps small things that we have done that we feel will help keep it at our forefront and help fight the change. First of all, we realized that there's a program through APS that we were able to enroll in called Green Choice. And it has a couple of different levels of participation in which you can choose a percentage of your electric bill that is generated by green energy. And it is slightly more expensive, but it is something we felt we were able to do and still be conscious of our energy usage in general. We garaged one of our 2 cars during the pandemic, and then as we started to come back to a little more activity, we were able to realize that we are able to get along with 1 car, with not foolproof yet, but we have this week sold our 2nd car and are now committed to becoming a 1-car household. And another thing that we have done, and which is easier to do in the summer but not impossible, is to put more of our clothes for line drying. And in the summer, I'm able to hang them outdoors on our patio on our deck. And in the winter, we're able to dry them overnight in the bathroom on drying racks and hangers. They're small efforts, but they're efforts that we feel that we can make and be conscious of the world that we want to leave our children and grandchildren, and that we are willing and trying to do what we can to help those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly and Gary. Thank you. You know, I first met Patrick Grady in the Faith Development Building when there was no window and it was a dark and cave-like place. We were sitting around a table talking about the possibilities, and Patrick brought up the possibility of expanding the garden for the children, making it more of a community garden, a place where they could learn things and have a more direct connection with the earth. I loved the idea, but with my experience in Arizona, I was against it because of all the water that would be used. And I always imagined in Southern Arizona how much water went into one of my tomatoes. And it was hard for me to support the idea. And now here we are with a garden, and I'm glad that no one listened to me, because this garden is a kind of symbol of hope. during this time. And I don't think we're using the kind of water that I use down south of Tucson. And its fruits and vegetables are feeding people who arrive at food banks who might not have access to fresh food. And we've eaten a few peppers. And the children brought me a pumpkin last autumn that filled me with hope and made a delicious soup. And when Wren was leaving, we all sat together in that garden, enjoying conversation in the midst of nature. That garden has made a difference in our community life. Because what I didn't think of was that gardens are a place for children and adults to make that ever important connection between taking care of the earth and eating. And it is a place where we can experience joy, camaraderie, and delicious food. Let us catch Patrick's vision.
Thank you, Reverend Patty. Good morning, all. This is such a moving service. Love Song to the Earth really brought tears to my eyes. I'm honored to be with you this morning. Thich Nhat Hanh, the Buddhist monk and peace activist, has a saying that always moves me. When asked what we need to do to save our planet, he replied, "What we most need to do is to hear within us the sound of the earth's crying." Do you hear those cries? I do. In my own faith journey and my path in the climate movement, those cries motivated me and continue to motivate me today. And in our decision to join Granite Peak, it was you all that motivated my wife and I and inspired us. Your activism in the public arena of climate justice, environmental justice, gender justice, racial justice, immigration justice, all of those important elements that are occurring in issues in our nation. Frankly, we really hadn't seen that level of commitment elsewhere in our faith journey. But there it is, reflected in the 7 principles of UU, concluding with number 7, respect for the interdependent web of all existence of which we are a part. We saw you out at meetings, marching to the courthouse. Granite Peak is really known as the church that walks the talk. Millard Fuller, the founder of Habitat for Humanity, and Leslie and I have been involved with Habitat for over 30 years, used to issue the challenge, take the sermon out of the sanctuary and into the street. You do that, we do that together. So let us take a moment to kind of look back in these difficult times, just in 2020 alone, on things that we've done together. In January, our congregation declared a climate emergency. As far as I know, and looking at other communities around the state, we're the only congregation, faith community that has actually declared a climate emergency. In February, as you see in this slide, right around Valentine's Day, sponsored by Green Sanctuary, we at Granite Peak UU held a Keeping the Earth in Our Hearts event with film and speakers, including Reverend Patty. In April, we at the Northern Arizona Climate Change Alliance, and I'm glad you got to meet Carrie Hull this morning if you haven't before, we seamlessly converted to virtual events and workshops. And during Earth Week, during April, we sponsored 13 events across our region, including 6 in Prescott alone. In that same month of April, the Yavapai Climate Change Coalition was the Seeds of Support recipient. You donated $860. That was huge and a major blessing to our work. In August and September, recognizing that we couldn't hold physical gatherings, we started shoe strikes across our region. And as Carrie pointed out, we held 2 at our courthouse and even on the steps of City Hall, as you can see on those slides before you. GPU members dropped off shoes right outside our sanctuary. In that same time period, as Molly pointed out a few moments ago, both Mary Steenhoek and Molly stepped up to co-chair and lead the Green Sanctuary team. And finally, the Social Justice Ministry surveyed our membership this year to discover our priorities. Do you know what the number 2 priority was? The environment and climate change. And I promise you, despite the president's incessant tirades, we did not abuse the balloting process. It was a fair and honest vote. So it shows how important climate change and the environment is to all of us here in the congregation. So it's important, as we do at various times, to recognize what a difficult time this has been. Whether we attribute it to COVID-19, the impending election that's upon us finally at last, or to this moment in history of our reckoning with our sordid history and present with Indigenous peoples, African Americans, and other people of color. But as Carrie pointed out, the climate movement continues to move forward in action and in hope. Close to us, for example, in Flagstaff and Sedona, they're leading the way. Flagstaff adopted a climate action plan in 2018, and they passed a climate emergency this past summer. Sedona is right now in the midst of COVID-19, developing their own climate action plan. And a number of my friends and colleagues living in that region are participating in that work, sponsored by their Office of Sustainability. In April, Sedona released a climate profile examining current and future climate impacts on Sedona and the Verde Valley. Imagine that. We've been working on that for over a year here in our community, talking to the city manager, talking to the Yavapai County Office of Emergency Management. So think about it. How can half of Yavapai County have a climate impact study that would actually direct some of the mitigation practices that we could implement here in our community and across the region, and yet our Quad Cities region and our political leadership ignores it? It's only through solidarity, I believe, that we can bring climate justice to this side of Mingus Mountain. It'll take a lot of work. I recognize that, you recognize that, but together we can do a number of things. And here's 5 elements that we have identified, demands, frankly, that we are making of our political leadership that we presented at the second shoe strike held just a few weeks ago. We'd like our community to declare a climate emergency. We'd like the region, the Quad Cities region, communities and towns in the Quad Cities area, to undertake a climate risk assessment similar to the one that was recently completed for the city of Sedona and the Verde Valley. We'd like to see city and county projects transition from a fossil fuel-based energy to renewable energy alternatives. We'd like our community to protect people and land from the climate impacts identified for our region. And you've seen, when you have read stories about wildfires in California as one example of the climate impacts that are impacting the West, and clearly the long-term droughts that we're experiencing, how that has impacted our communities again across the Southwest. And finally, commit to a sustainable and just future for our region's communities. To make this happen, we need you. So I'm going to give you a couple of things that you can do in addition to the individual actions that Molly and Gary pointed out. So you can contact Mary or Molly, Mary Steenhope, Molly Devine, and join our Green Sanctuary team. Another opportunity are our climate action teams. So NASCA and the Yavapai Climate Change Coalition, we created in late 2019 and 2020, we created several action teams that involve community members. We did that around issues that folks are energized about, have feelings for, are concerned about. Food systems, renewable energy, climate planning, like that climate profile example, and sustainability. So for that one, you can actually contact me. And I would just point out that all of this is on a file that Heather is providing for you in the chat. The third area is registering for the NASCA December fundraising on the evening of December 12th. It's our first ever fundraiser, and it supports grassroots organizing at the local level. This is really near and dear to me. Carrie Hall is a close friend now, and without her and her community organizing work and of her colleague and partner in the Flagstaff Sedona area, Jenna Ortega, we wouldn't be where we are today. And I'd say 98% of the revenues that we have as an organization goes for paying for these two full-time paid community organizers. And you won't find another climate change organization in the state of Arizona that's made that level of commitment. So make sure you check on the chat and access that file. In closing, Bill McKibben, the founder of 350.org, has said, if we do not solve this problem soon, we will not solve it. We're called upon to act with all that we have, and we need you in that fight, end of quote. So taking individual responsibility is clearly important and is good for climate. But I make a distinction. Individualism alone is not. What's called for is collective action and acting on our seventh principle. So we listen, we learn a lot at Zoom webinars, but we also act on climate justice. And we at GPUU are called to action. And we even mentioned this in our covenant with each other. We're called to action in community with others. This is our path. This is the path to a more just and sustainable community. Thanks.
Oh, thank you, Patrick. Thank you. Thank you. And we, in April, at the conferences that were held around Earth Day, I heard a new voice, the voice of Jesse Rodriguez. We see so many big things happening because of climate change, and Jesse Rodriguez is a young man who loves beer. Let us listen to him.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In my life, I have discovered and found a loving passion for golden nectar, bestowed by Mother Nature herself, beer. It is within my liberty to sip, or in different setting, chug a beer at will. As I sip on the joyful bliss of beer, it has brought an enhancing quality into my life, thus the pursuit of happiness. However, these rights will soon be infringed within our current American politics. How so, you may ask? As mankind continues to burn fossil fuels and project greenhouse gas emissions without any legislative regulation, irregular weather patterns, aka climate change, will be affecting the ever so delicate barley crop. Sensitive to extreme heat, barley crops rely on consistent weather to grow and be crafted into a cold one. Similarly as important, water is essential for the craftsmanship of brew, from beginning to the end. Our hop-growing northwestern states, such as Washington, Idaho, and Oregon, rely their irrigation from snowpack. Yet, with temperatures rising, we can see a 44% decrease of snowpack by 2040 and 66% by 2050. Global barley yields will decline between 3 and 17%, according to a journal by Nature Plants. And with only 70% of barley being used for beer, while the rest of the 83% is being used for livestock, majority will still be used for the pigs instead of the brews, resulting in a beer shortage and rise in prices. Moreover, U.S. farmers may be expected to export their crop to outside countries for money instead of quenching the thirst of their own American brethren on a Saturday afternoon. I find this unacceptable. In 2018, the American people consumed 6.3 billion gallons of beer. And for the record, I'm not an alcoholic, just a beer enthusiast, a connoisseur, if you will. If you love beer and you love America, it is time to tell our Congress to take action on curbing climate change. As brewers and farmers across the country are taking measures already to save the brews, we must take participation in our democratic republic by telling our representatives to pass laws that will promote a cleaner and more sustainable economy. If our current representatives do not adhere to the requests of their constituents, that is when we vote for a promising candidate when the time comes. It's not just the luxurious beer that's in danger. Coffee, tea, chocolate, avocados. Nevertheless, if we do not take action by pushing our lawmakers to establish policies promoting a cleaner earth and home, human extinction will be the finale. With no human race, no life. With no breath, no liberty. With no freedom, no pursuit of happiness. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. I wonder where each of you is connected intimately with something you love that will be affected by climate change. Once a month, on a Friday evening, Mary Lou and I gather with a women's group in Southern Arizona. We've belonged to them for over a decade, and now on Zoom, we can gather without a long drive. And this time, there was a question. There's a question every time the facilitator prepares one question for all of us to answer. The question this week was, where do you find hope? Where do you find hope? As I was trying to think of when I felt hope, I remembered times when I felt the opposite of hope. Probably that feeling of just feeling down, not wanting to get out of bed very quickly, a kind of despair. And I could connect that for myself with feeling disconnected with that web of life around us. I feel despair when I feel that the gifts that I have, who I am, just doesn't have much to offer in the world. And in retrospect, I could see how this feeling can sneak up on me, beginning with a thought. I wonder if any of you have had this thought. Doing that, whatever it is, will just not make a difference. For me, that is a slippery slope to feeling that nothing will make a difference. Have you been there? I wonder. I wish I could hear your answers. Because sometimes the recycle bin seems a little too far away out in the garage, or the wrappings are too complicated on a package. And I think, what difference will it make if I take 10 minutes to recycle as much as I can of this mess? And for me, that is a slippery slope. And when I make the effort to do what I need to do, I don't slide down it. This pandemic has created a space. It's created access to a larger now, a larger moment to live in. I think we've had more time and silence for our urgings to surface. We've been less able to shut them out. Gary and Molly described this to us well about how the pandemic has helped them try out living with one car, enrolling in a greener program with an electric company. Those opportunities were there before the pandemic, but the pandemic gave them space to see them. During the pandemic, Dan Tokar and Taffy Pettit and Marianne and John Erickson have installed solar panels. And in the face of these huge forest fires, shrinking polar ice caps, fracking, pipelines that are wrecking the lands of Native peoples, it's easy to feel that voice, to hear it saying, doing that little thing won't really make a difference. And as your minister, as a woman who lives with these voices, I say, don't listen to that voice, because hope lives in answering yes to our urgings. And hope is what fuels us. It keeps our tanks full enough to work with others on the kind of joint projects that Patrick spoke of. When NASCA is asking for shoes for their shoe strike, or for letters in support of different policies, that tank, when that tank is full, we have enough energy. We have enough energy to do those things that are right in front of us. For I believe that within those actions, we will be working with others and we will feel that sense of community that is another multiplier of hope. Many of us right now, because I've heard you, many of us are struggling with hope. My challenge to you is to listen to your urgings, however small, to reach out to a neighbor, bring them eggs or chocolate chip cookies, to call up a solar company and get a quote, to write a letter, to participate in a phone bank. For these smaller acts will leave us open to larger ones. They will make us nimble when the call goes out. These small hopes will give us the strength to dream of a Prescott that is not divided, of new leadership all over this land. There have been news articles about Prescott. I wonder if you have been reading them. They are depressing about what happened in early September, about the white supremacists here, about things that happened around that march and that exist around us. And I think it would be easy for the rest of Arizona to see Prescott as the place where these awful things live on. And I'm saying to them that Sheriff Joe Arpaio is from Maricopa County, and that white supremacist groups are active all over the state and in every state. And I believe that if southern cities like Birmingham, who had a sheriff who did those awful things to marchers, young people, children, I believe if Birmingham can turn around, so can we. I believe that our hopelessness about the world and about this town in particular is playing into the enemy's hands. I urge you to be hopeful, to listen for those urgings that you may even have silenced. I was feeling hope. I told that group of women because I followed my urgings 3 days ago to write an op-ed about those articles about Prescott. And now I'm told it's in a queue to be published in the Courier, and we shall see. I urge us to err on the side of being crazy optimists. Let us believe that the city of Prescott can sign on to a climate change emergency, that there will be electric car charging stations around the courthouse plaza, that our mayor will stand up against racism and for this planet. Let us dream wildly. And today I have evidence. I have evidence of great change. 7 years ago today, Mary Lou and I were married in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And when we went to the county office to get our license, we were afraid. How would they treat us? They treated us with love. I believe to arrive at that kind of day here, we must dream wildly. For to arrive at that day, people dreamed wildly, and they risked everything, like my great grandmother who jumped into the Shoshone River. Today, may we sing and dance with Iz, a native Hawaiian who knew the stark realities and cruel history behind the scenes you will see of those beautiful islands. He inspired the world with a dream that somewhere over the rainbow, a new place existed. Perhaps for us, there is a rainbow waiting beyond Granite Mountain. Can you see it? I wish I could hear your answers. Together, let us listen to our inner urgings and let us dance and sing. Amen, and may it be so. I hope you had a vision going on in your mind during that. I realize before we extinguish our chalice that next Sunday, my colleague and fellow minister in Flagstaff, Robin Zucker, will be speaking to you next week, which means that I won't be seeing you in a service until after the election. So take good care of yourselves. Keep up with everything that you are doing. Keep up the hope and try to make that vision. Even of those of you who know better, try to break through those barriers and make a vision of how we can transform right here in Yavapai County. And now let us extinguish our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And now you are going to have the chance to go into a breakout room, which I'm going to go into. I love you all and am going to be with you during this finger biting time. Bye.